Chapter 14. Graduated from college. Now what? This chapter is about my immediate journey after graduating from college, as well as what the typical graduate encounters. When college students become college graduates, they have the same options of ease as high school graduates, just at a heightened level thanks to their college degree. As a reminder, those 4 options that start with the letter E are as follows: employment, enrollment, entrepreneurship, and enlistment. I know graduates who have made singular choices from these options, as well as various combinations. Most graduates choose the employee route, as this is their opportunity to begin their working career and experience life without school. A graduate's first job after college is typically in the industry that aligns with their newly acquired degree. There is a chance they interned with the company prior to accepting a full-time role. Some graduates choose to expand their employment options by interviewing with multiple companies before and after graduation. After selecting an employer, most graduates choose to get their own apartment so they can keep the same level of freedom they obtained in college. I advise you to focus on more than just salary when choosing an employer. Work environment and benefits like health insurance and vacation days are important. Also, the days of staying with one company for 40 years are gone. You will probably stay with your first company for 5 years max, maybe even 1 or 2 years before moving on to something better. Even if you love the company you work with, always keep your options open. Of course, some graduates choose to stay enrolled in school after achieving their bachelor's degree. Those who choose this option seem to have a solid plan of how they will leverage the higher level of schooling, or they have become institutionalized and cannot envision life without school. These types of graduates are seeking master's or doctoral degrees in specific subjects, such as law, business, or healthcare. Some graduates start businesses and leverage the resources they gained from college. Graduates who have a strong sense of self-belief that they will become profitable business owners often go this route. This option also is chosen by graduates who want to earn extra money while working for an employer or continuing to be enrolled in school. The last E is for enlisting in the military after graduating from college. Often, graduates choose this option to help pay off their student loans. In exchange for service to their country, the military offers opportunities to pay off loans more quickly than any other institution. Regardless of what students and graduates decide, it will always be important to understand the benefits and risk of each choice. I would be a hypocrite if I did not advise you to find mentors and ask questions to help decipher and decide what is best for you. Ultimately, students and graduates must live with the consequences of their choices. I advise college graduates to read and apply the lessons and ideologies in the financial literacy chapter of this book. You will probably be making more money than you ever have before. If you are the first in your family to graduate from college, you may become the person everyone asks to borrow money from. If you decide to lend money, consider it a gift because you may never see that money again. I learned this lesson the hard way multiple times. Also, it is typical that the more money we make, the more money we spend. It would be wise to live below your means, regardless of your income. I am not saying you shouldn't buy and have nice things, but be conscious of your financial health. Does it make sense to get a luxurious apartment that forces you to live paycheck to paycheck? Dear Kenny, no matter what level of schooling you complete or how much time passes, mentors will always be important. You may even need to hire and pay them. You do not need to do or figure out everything by yourself. I could figure out how to build a house to save money, but it would cost me valuable time. If I hire house building experts, they will accomplish the task much more quickly while I do something else. All the information and advice I have given is to help you become a great adult. Do not throw away the lessons once you become an adult. Sincerely, Kenny Glenn, success coach and entrepreneur. My journey was not typical, but the lessons I learned can benefit all. I still had so much more to learn about life and about myself. It all came down like a ton of bricks, and I did not take ample time to relax or celebrate. Gratefully, Miami University gifted NABA members with an all-expenses-paid trip to Las Vegas for the NABA annual conference and 50th year celebration. Immediately afterwards, it was time to shift my focus towards business consulting, as well as becoming a professional athlete and a school board member. The business hospital. To earn money and gain knowledge, I began working with Dr. Baker and his company, Dr. Baker and Associates, the business hospital, formerly known as J.C. Baker and Associates. My title was junior consultant, and I was tasked with finding and soliciting potential clients who needed help with their businesses. I was and will always be passionate about small businesses, so this was the majority of my target audience. Since I am also Black, these were the business owners I spoke with the most. However, I still found and helped clients from all demographics. I quickly learned that the race of the business owner, the size of the business, or the country the business operated in did not matter, as they all faced similar problems. The type of problems I am referring to cannot be fixed with more money. We serve clients across multiple industries such as apparel, fitness, technology, education, construction, medical, food and beverage, event planning, and even gold mining. Most of their problems consisted of weak internal controls, poor salesmanship, and the inability to clearly identify or articulate their value propositions. When I first began soliciting, I contacted any and everyone who even looked like they had a business or business idea. I used multiple methods to contact people such as calls, texts, emails, and direct messages on social platforms. This included complete strangers and people I had not talked to in years. I also asked friends and family if they could introduce me to any business owners. An old school tactic that helped me practice my salesmanship, grow my confidence, and increase actual conversion was when I put foot to pavement. I would physically walk up and down streets or within shopping plazas to introduce myself to business owners, learn about their businesses, and probe them about their pain points. Here are the biggest lessons I learned from this style of sales. It's a numbers game, and you will be told no many more times than you are told yes. Keep going and be persistent. You must have the confidence to say what needs to be said out loud. You must clearly articulate your value proposition and worthiness of receiving the sale. Let people know who you are, what you do, why you are the best at it, and why you should be paid your price. There are certain types of questions to ask to get anyone to engage in dialogue. Learn how to simultaneously listen to what people say and what they do not say. Learn how to overcome objections and contradictory statements. Dr. Baker and I would ride all around Cincinnati to different business engagements. These would be meetings with potential and current clients, as well as meetings at banks and various chambers of commerce. We would drive purposely slow to look around at the different businesses and ask questions like, what is their product or service? Or, how have they remained in business after all these years? I did not go through this journey alone, as I also had my classmates and friends, Benjamin Phillips and Rod Mills. They also worked as junior consultants, and we were all on the same mission. All of us were young and hungry salesmen trying to earn money at every chance while helping our business community. We did not know what we were doing, and many times it showed. Sometimes Dr. Baker had to verbally spaz out on us so we would learn the lesson of why we were rejected. On many occasions, Dr. Baker would say, I bet you didn't ask them this, to make us realize where we were falling short. Here is an example of the lessons he would teach us. The fun part of starting a business is the logo design, choosing colors, imagery, fonts, and creating a website. It is like kindergarten, with arts and crafts, recess, lunch, and field trips. Novice business owners are not interested in the strategy, development, legal, risk, or organic revenue generation. Rarely anybody knows exactly what they are doing. Schools are filled with people with degrees, and they are still failing. Your physician, your dentist, your lawyer, and your psychologist all operate practices, meaning they do what they think is best, but there is no 100% guarantee. We exist to improve the health of businesses and teach things that they do not know, which should be used to increase effectiveness and efficiency. Dear Kenny, the business lessons from Dr. Baker also apply to life. People say they want things like a healthy body that looks good and functions properly, low-stress relationships with beautiful people, first-class flights around the world, and nice homes, but many do not want to do what is necessary to achieve these freedoms. If you are not willing to take risk, and give what is necessary to achieve what you desire? Do you truly want it? Sincerely, Kenny Glenn, success coach and entrepreneur. I received so much valuable information and gained applicable knowledge in such a short time frame after graduating from college. I spent 4 years in college business courses, and yet I learned more about business in the first 4 weeks of working alongside Dr. Baker. I realized that in businesses with fewer than 5 employees, owners must wear every departmental hat. They are responsible for sales, marketing, bookkeeping, legalities, customer service, and more. It was fun learning, teaching, and performing all of these aspects. My first clients were business owners I had known personally since I was a teenager, such as Matt Waters, owner of Yako. It was incredibly rewarding, internally and financially, to be hired to help them with their businesses. I also quickly realized how entrepreneurship is not all sunshine and rainbows, even for the person who was helping other entrepreneurs. I experienced some months when I did not make a dime. I would be on phone calls or in meetings for 16 hours a day, just trying to close deals. I had clients who were on the same grind, which eventually leads to major burnout. As a salesman, some people would say they would call me back or say they were ready to pay and hire me, but they never did. The difference between this role and an employee role is that I still would have received some type of hourly wage or salary as an employee. My employer also would have covered my healthcare insurance. With the choice of commission-only work, I had neither of these aspects and had to cover my own insurance to see my general health physician, dentist, and eye doctor. When the COVID-19 pandemic arrived, our workload increased because the businesses around the world had no clue what their next move should be. This was the perfect time to be the business hospital, as we offered treatment and beneficial advice for businesses to properly get through this unprecedented and unpredictable situation. It seemed as if I could not have found a better position for my postgraduate life, and it fit perfectly with my other pursuits of being a professional athlete and a school board member. My journey to the 2020 Olympics. The thought of becoming a professional track athlete started with the conversation I had with my friend Ryan Billion during USATF National Championships in February of 2019. Ryan told me he and other professional track athletes were being coached by Dwight Phillips in a group called the Winner Circle. I knew that having the opportunity to be coached by Dwight Phillips and be around other professional athletes would be life-changing. This could potentially get me to the Olympic Games scheduled for the next year. I also knew I had more room to improve my long jump distance after college. This was also coupled with the fact that I could obtain dual citizenship with the country of Honduras. My mother being born in Honduras granted me the option to professionally compete for her home country instead of the USA. After my initial conversation with Ryan Billion, I began researching ways to connect with the Honduras track team. Through this online research, I found out about the Honduran track athlete Jerome Solis. He was still in college at the time at Iona College in New York. However, I could not find his social media or a way to contact him to ask about competing for Honduras. Weeks later, at Penn Relays in Philadelphia, as I had just gotten off the subway train, I saw members of the Iona College track team across the street. I immediately wondered if I would be able to meet Jerome. Eventually, his team came to my side of the street. Then I saw a name badge that read Jerome Solis. I introduced myself and told him I was looking for ways to connect with the Honduran team so I could run professionally. He gave me every contact I needed. The younger me would have chosen to compete for Team USA because it typically has the best track athletes, especially since the USA has a larger population and better resources than most other countries. But also, I wanted to go against the best. However, with age came wisdom, and it made more sense to choose the path of least resistance. I would also train with my friend Ryan Billion and other professionals, receive coaching from Dwight Phillips, and shoot for the Olympics within a specific time frame. With all these available factors, I chose to go for it. I thought of this decision from a third-person point of view. If I had friends with the same opportunities I had, I would tell them to do the same. I waited until October of 2019 to begin professional training because my body needed rest from my last collegiate seasons. I also knew professional seasons spanned longer than college seasons. I was in Cincinnati, Ohio at the time I made my decision to compete professionally. I reached out to David Payne and asked if he would coach me. David Payne is a Cincinnati native and an Olympic silver medalist. Although he was a hurdler and not a long jumper, he had vast knowledge of the sport and connections that would aid me. I also reconnected with Garrett Stoller, who was the first athletic trainer I had in college. I found out that he left Miami University to be in Cincinnati full-time as an entrepreneur with the baseball performance company Elite SC. I also had my first encounter with chiropractic care thanks to a recommendation from Rod Mills. He recommended that I see Dr. Greg Pittman since he was the father of Grant Pittman, who also went to Miami with us. From there, I had what I thought I needed to succeed, and I ran with it. Pun intended. After a couple months of training in Cincinnati, I received some nagging injuries, and I had to deal with freezing weather. I finessed my way into a coaching conference in Orlando, Florida, so I could train in warmer weather. I knew it was time for a change. With the help of Ryan Billion, I made the long jump from Cincinnati, Ohio to Atlanta, Georgia to expand my training for the Olympics. This allowed me to be coached by Dwight Phillips alongside former NCAA champions like Zach Bazile and Marquise Goodwin, who is also a former Olympian. With the help of family members, I was able to live in Atlanta while I trained. This move was exciting, but not entirely what I expected it to be. The first couple of weeks, I was just excited to be in the presence of so much greatness. Our training group comprised of athletes from all over the US and other countries such as Nigeria, the United Kingdom, Italy, the British Virgin Islands, Russia, and Jamaica. I learned more about the technical aspects of track by listening to Dwight Phillips and Dr. Marco Belizaire. Sadly, the COVID-19 outbreak in March of 2020 caused everything to shut down right before the outdoor season was set to begin. Therefore, track facilities began to close their gates, forcing my decision to pause training until the pandemic had calmed down. I drove back to my Ohio family since there was talk about state lines being closed. The Olympic Committee then chose to postpone the 2020 Olympic Games until 2021. After the world gained a slight understanding of the pandemic situation and things in the US began to open back up, I returned to Atlanta in September to continue training. I was excited because it was always fun to reconnect with teammates and get back to the grind. However, for multiple instances in consecutive months, we were forced to stop in the middle of practice. Police officials would see us training and say COVID-19 was the reason we could no longer use the facility. This was a contradiction, as exercise and being outside are some of the best ways to strengthen the immune system. It was also disappointing because we were Olympic athletes on the path to achieving our dreams. We hopped around to different facilities around the city, and we even had to change our practice times to avoid police interaction. This was certainly an added stressor. In November, the weather began to be a stressor as well, because contrary to popular belief, it gets cold in Atlanta. Thankfully, Coach Dwight established a connection with Spire Institute in Geneva, Ohio. They had an indoor track facility and the capacity to house and feed us during a winter training camp. It seemed well overpriced, but many of my friends and family members donated money to help me pay. This situation was not the best, but I had to be grateful and make it work. I needed it to properly prepare for my first international meet and opportunity to represent Honduras. In late December, I would be competing in Costa Rica at the Central American Championships. At the meet, I did not perform well in the long jump. I was projected to win a gold medal, but earned a bronze medal instead by 1 centimeter. I blame this performance on being super rusty, and it was my first time implementing my new, longer runway approach. Fortunately, the next day, I was able to redeem myself. Our team, composed of Malik Garcia, Yariel Matute, Jerome Solis, and me, won the 4x100 meter relay and broke the Honduran record. Just like in college, I was the anchor leg who brought it home for us while staring at the clock. Symbolically, Jerome Solis, the same guy who met me in Philadelphia and introduced me to the Honduran connections I needed, will be the person to hand me the baton. At this moment, I realized how American I was. We had just accomplished an amazing feat, but I was not as ecstatic as my teammates due to comparing our time to what I have witnessed in the USA. We would have gotten smoked by a college team. My mother helped me realize how comparison is the thief of joy. Her words helped me to enjoy what we accomplished. As I returned to Atlanta in January to continue training for the outdoor season, Coach Dwight decided that our training group would go to Miami, Florida in February for a 3-week training camp in warmer weather. Fraternity benefits and social media. In this section, I will share another example of fraternity benefits and using social media wisely. I messaged Brandon Marshall, a retired NFL wide receiver and fellow Kappa man. Brandon is also the CEO of the brand and world-class athletic facility House of Athlete in Weston, Florida. Since Weston was only 30 minutes away from Miami, I knew this would be the perfect opportunity to tour House of Athlete and train at its amazing facility. Most people would be discouraged by their own thoughts and assume that a celebrity would not reply to them. However, I am not one of those people, and whoever reads this should let go of those kind of thoughts. If you are holding on to fearful thoughts, you are blocking your blessings. I went to Brandon Marshall's Instagram and saw it had the option to text his phone number. I introduced myself via text and included that we were fraternity brothers. He quickly replied, stating that he would be ecstatic to have me and my teammates come to his facility to train during our trip. After my initial message, my teammates and I were able to speak directly with Brandon Marshall and many of the staff members. Those conversations have now formed lifelong connections that we each benefit from. Injuries, competing, and traveling. In Miami, Florida, there are plenty of temptations and reasons why it is nicknamed Vice City. As a heterosexual man, my vice was women, and Miami has a plethora of them from all nationalities. I feel like my distractions played a part in what happened next. On the first Friday of our trip, the day we were prepared to long jump at practice, I strained my groin while sprinting. I analyzed everything that occurred up to this point. First, I did not get much sleep the night before. My teammates and I were up late playing card games with some women we met. I was also dehydrated because I went against my normal way of operating during training phases. To not be labeled as a wimp, I decided to drink alcohol. But something else was off. I realized that my ankle injury from college had never fully healed, and my feet were weak. This created all sorts of compensation, tightness, and pain throughout my entire body. I attempted to mask these aspects with all types of modalities and solutions that provided comfort. While still recovering from my injury, my mother informed me that she was planning to visit Honduras in March for her birthday. I knew this would be a great opportunity for multiple reasons besides celebrating with her and my sister. The trip would be my first time visiting Honduras. I would be able to see certain family members, and my mother could be my English to Spanish translator in the areas I lacked. Also, I would get to relax and de-stress while enjoying the beautiful scenery that Honduras has to offer. People often refer to Honduras as a third world country, but many parts seem just like the United States. There were shopping malls, grocery stores, and American-based fast food restaurants. The scenery was amazing at the various beaches, waterfalls, and lakes, plus they were not overcrowded. Something I found interesting and different from the United States was the neighborhoods where mansion-sized houses stood right beside small shacks. I advise everyone to travel internationally at least once so you can see and experience what truly occurs instead of relying on what others say. This trip with my family was much needed, and with my return to the United States, I knew it was time to refocus on making the Olympics so I could make my family and Honduras proud. By late April, I had partially recovered enough to compete in track meets as a professional in the U.S. These were some amazing experiences as I met legends and celebrities like Justin Gatlin, Sha'Carri Richardson, and Chad Ochocinco Johnson. At my first meet in San Diego, California, I still managed to jump close to 25 feet after not being able to sprint for 40 days after my injury. I remember a time when 25 feet was my peak, but at this point, I could do it while injured. I can only imagine what I could have long jumped with a healthy and balanced body. Yet, 25 feet was 2 feet short of what I would need for Olympic qualifications. I competed in more meets in Georgia, but still could not hit the Olympic standard. Shortly after the meet in San Diego, Coach Dwight decided to stop coaching certain athletes for the remainder of the season, including me. He felt like there were too many athletes in the group who began to disrespect him and not take training seriously. I respected his decision and explained how serious my injury was. He and I are still friends today, but this separation allowed me to learn even more about long jumping, as I had to become more self-dependent. I am thankful that I also have fellow long jumpers such as Ryan Billion and Reggie Steele to confide in and receive necessary help from. We each began to have new revelations and ideas about training as professional athletes. At the end of the season, I had another opportunity to compete in Costa Rica for another year of the Central American Championships. This time, however, my body was in shambles. My groin had not fully healed, and it led to other injuries from overcompensating and not giving my body proper time or resources to recover. The first day of the competition consisted of the 100-meter dash and the 4x100-meter relay. I was unprepared for the 100-meter dash, and I ran my slowest time ever. Then, our relay team did not have the same team members as the prior championships. One of our top sprinters decided to retire due to lack of financial assistance and professionalism we received from our country. I was still the anchor leg, but not able to sprint at my best and get our team a gold medal. The next day, I would compete in the long jump, have a chance to make up for my disappointing performance at the previous championships, and potentially qualify for the Olympics. I gave it my all and competed against the reigning gold medalist from Costa Rica. Throughout the competition, I continually sat in second place but kept going for first. Eventually, I pushed my body past its limits and I strained my hamstring on my last jump attempt for the gold. I could not even walk afterward, and I had to be taken to an emergency room in an ambulance. This type of injury ended my season, which meant no Olympics. I thought I would be sad, but I was relieved to finally get some rest. Family and friends who supported me were still proud of me for going on the journey and achieving medals at the Central American Championships. I told my parents I would heal and then aim for the World Championships next season. Dear Kenny, if you are considering becoming a professional athlete, be sure to analyze every factor as you will be under pressure emotionally, physically, spiritually, and financially. I spent over $10,000 to recover my body with modalities like chiropractor visits, acupuncture, muscle activation, compression boots, cupping, and more. I spent another $3,000 on coaching, $6,000 on housing, and $5,000 on groceries and restaurants. That may or may not seem like much, but that is drastic when we consider that I paid $0 in college. It took me being a professional athlete and going through these tribulations to appreciate the benefits that colleges provide to athletes by way of coaching, housing, food, physical therapy, and access to facilities. Sincerely, Kenny Glenn, success coach and entrepreneur. My experience in politics. Once I graduated from college and returned home, multiple people within my school district informed me that 2 board seats were up for election. They insisted that I would make a perfect school board member. I had no clue what a school board member did or that it would require a campaign. With proper assistance and guidance from good-hearted politicians, I went through the process of receiving donations, creating flyers and poster boards with my name, and speaking with voters in different settings. I even stood on a street corner during school dismissal while holding one of my signs so parents could see who I was and eventually vote for me. I quickly learned that politics is a dirty game and that it reveals the true colors of everyone involved. Individuals to whom I had not spoken with in years donated to my campaign. I became privy to information and stories I had no business knowing, but I suddenly became everyone's best friend. Certain individuals were running in the election who very few community members wanted to see win. My campaign would serve as a buffer to ensure this did not happen. On election day, I stood outside of my closest polling location and let voters know to choose me on their ballot. My parents and girlfriend also helped with this. When the results were tallied, I had achieved 3rd place in the voting by 300 votes, but I needed to be first or second to earn a seat. I was not upset. I did the best I could, and I helped to ensure that the individuals who would not progress our district were not voted in. However, shortly after the election, the acting president of the board resigned. This left an open seat for me to fill. I gladly put in my letter of interest to assure the remaining members that I would like to fill the seat. At the first board meeting, it was up to the members to decide if they would choose me, and they did. It was a sigh of relief to me and everyone who supported or voted for me. As a board member, I saw how most politicians and people in power positions are way too accustomed to doing things the same way as in the past. The hardest part about serving in a position like this is knowing the truth behind decisions, but not being able to share them with anyone outside of executive session meetings. People also began to treat me with much more respect and kindness than before I earned the title of board member. Teachers and administrators acted as if I had the power to fire them, but that was far from reality. My main responsibilities were to hire and evaluate the performances of the district's superintendent and treasurer. My other duties were to vote on impactful aspects, financial purchases, and expulsion appeal hearings. This experience also taught me the ins and outs of the school system, such as the finances behind every decision. Those decisions include staff employment and hiring contractors to update facilities and improve our district. The timing of my term allowed me to serve before and during the COVID-19 pandemic, which meant that I was able to attend meetings virtually and temporarily live in Atlanta, Georgia, while training for the Olympics. Also, just a few months into my term, I was responsible for hiring a new superintendent. Here I was, at 22 years of age, asking individuals who were born 40 plus years before me why I should choose them to lead our district. I am extremely grateful for the remarkable things that occurred during my tenure, such as approving the construction of our early learning center, thanks to Superintendents Dr. Reva Cosby and Dr. Valerie Hawkins, and using grant money to bring back school buses for high school students after nearly a 10-year hiatus. I also established relationships with some amazing people who are truly passionate about creating the changes and improvements necessary to benefit the students they serve. A global pandemic. At the time I write this book, the years 2021 to 2022, we are living in an interesting period. The COVID-19 pandemic has shifted the minds and behaviors of billions across the globe. Technology and virtual reality have rapidly advanced and have been widely adopted by the masses. We no longer must travel outside of our homes to see or meet people. Virtual reality has made some experiences seem so real that many are now uncertain of the difference between natural and artificial. One of the reasons why I turned down my full-time job offer with KPMG in 2019 was that they told me the only way I could switch to a more preferred department was to move to a big city. I asked, why? Why is it mandatory for me to move to a big city and pay higher rent to perform a job that requires over 80% travel? Why can't I live in Cincinnati, but live out of my suitcase and join calls when and where I am needed? It was mind-boggling to them back then, but now almost everyone in their company has the ability to work from home and contribute virtually. Dr. Baker and Associates and other innovative companies were already using communication platforms like Zoom long before it became an overnight phenomenon. There was a time when consultants would have to travel by train, boat, or plane to see and speak with their clients. But with today's technology advancements, businesses can serve their clients from anywhere with an internet connection. This pandemic has also altered the way we conduct schooling, work, and family life. You are no longer tied to a physical location to complete certain tasks. Although it should not have been in the first place, your definition of success is no longer confined to a certain job, title, salary, or a specific city. Sadly, many people needed this pandemic to pause their fast-paced lifestyles and reevaluate what was truly important. It also reminded us that we are free to choose and create our optimal lives and career paths. These things may seem obvious, but the obvious should never be overlooked. Dear Kenny, I write these words as a reminder that no matter what occurs in the outside world, you will always have the power and resources to be fruitful and live abundantly. You will accomplish your definition of success by thinking creatively, mastering the necessary skills, and keeping a positive attitude. Doing these things will help you find out what you love and eventually make money in your sleep. But how? Take heed to these words. My passion will lead me to my purpose. Sincerely, Kenny Glenn, success coach and entrepreneur.